This is the start of our UP hike 2020, summer of 2020. We just spent 9 lovely hours in our car, and now we're at this trailhead of the North Country Trail, and we're going to be heading to Old Victoria, 34 miles down this trail, where we'll touch the signpost, and then we'll come back over the next 3 days. So we've got 68 miles of hiking ahead over what is known as the Trapp Hills. It's going to be a fun time. Joining me this time is my wonderful and incredibly strong and beautiful hiking partner, Renee. Her trail name is Hot Chocolate, and we're going to have a great time. So let's start this adventure. Oh, so we made it to the top. There's a tower behind us. I don't know if you'll be able to see through the trees, but there's the hills above hand. We hiked through a little bit of a swamp. It was a bit muddy. Got my new shoes dirty. And now we are heading down along the trail, and we'll see how far we go today. We've got to find our first camp spot and then first water source. So we're about half mile from our second overlook, and so far the trail's been pretty good. It's definitely not. Oh, a tree fell in the woods. Do you hear it? Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Now we know the answer to the question. So, like I was saying, we're almost to the top of this climb. There's a little bit of a breeze, keeps the bugs away. But boy, oh boy, you think the UP is a cold place. Perhaps in the winter. Not on the last weekend of June in the summer of 2020. When we left, it was about 82 degrees, and it hasn't cooled down any. Ground's fairly dry, so that's nice. And there's a breeze above, which gives you the illusion that it's cool, but really isn't. So we're just making it through the woods. We'll check in when we get to the top, take a look at this overhead. That's it for now. Well, those towers in the distance is where we've come from, and we went up and down over these last two little hills here, and this is what we're looking at here in Michigan. This is wonderful. To the far west, that's the Porcupine Mountains, and we're at the same elevation as them. You can't see it from here, but there's a whole lot of people scrambling over those mountains. But over here, there's nobody, just myself and Renee. So how you feeling about the terrain, Renee?
Hilly.
It's hilly? Is that something you like?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's what I thought. And how about the people?
No people.
Is that a good thing?
Awesome.
It's an awesome thing. I agree. Oh, hey.
Our only company is mosquitoes.
But only in the bottoms, and up here they don't hang out. So we may have to camp up top. Actually, I think we're going to be camping at a place that I saw on the map called, I'm going to call it Saddle Ridge, and I'll show you on the map later. Well, 6 miles in, and we found this spot on top of the Trapp Hills, right off the side of the trail. Took us a little bit of time to put up our tent. First time of the season, 2020. I had taken it all apart, and then so we had to figure out how to put it together again. But here's our campsite. We've got a nice hill here, plenty of breeze. The sun setting to the west, as it does every evening. The birds are singing. And life is pretty good. It was a good first day hike, and now we are going to set up our stuff inside the tent and get dinner going, and then you know, hang out and maybe build a fire. We'll see. Well, good morning. Day 2. We've already packed up. Tent's broken. Everything's all put away. We're gonna hike for about half hour,
Got to find some water, and there's a really good view coming up where we're going to have some breakfast. We got up at about 7, and it is now 10 to 8. So basically, we took our time and broke campsite in about 50 minutes. See you on down the trail. Take care for now. This is where we're going to have coffee this morning. We're did our little hike from over the hill just to be across this way from us there. It's where we camped last night. We just came down over the saddle over here to the right and climbed back up. And this is what you get for in Michigan for stunning views, if you find the right place to hike. So this is pretty impressive. This is a big vista in Michigan. Pretty rare to see. So we're going to stop here. We're going to have our coffee. We're going to enjoy the sunrise over this little valley and just take it in. Enjoy the fact that we're out in the woods and not in the house during the summer of 2020. Well, this is our lookout for breakfast of day 1, full day 1. And we're looking over this wide open space of the Ottawa National Forest in the UP. And truth be told, this is a pretty stunning little vista we got here. We'll be heading east all day down towards those hills. We're up on this ridge line all day, going towards those hills, and then there's eventually a lake at the end, which will be our turnaround point. So got some birds flying below us. Happy as I'll get out. If you can see down the low ground there, there's the line, that's where the river is. Renee's getting the stove going. And we're gonna have some early morning coffee, our first coffee of the day, and perhaps our a bit of breakfast, and then we have to go find some water.
Well, that's where we came from. That's where we had breakfast, up on that overlook over there. And now we've just been hiking for the last hour, down through a few little valleys, up over the other hill to this lookout here. And we're looking back to where we came from. It's pretty hard to see, but we're still going in this direction to the east. And we'll be going into the woods for a second. So let's take a look at what hiking in the woods is like with this camera. So here we go. We're making our way up this hill. I'm sure it doesn't seem very steep on the camera. It's not that steep, but still, you know, uphills are always uphills. But this is the way this terrain on this trail is you've got this ridge line that's running east-west, and you climb up to the top, you're along the edge of the ridge line looking down the valley below, and then you climb down, go through a little valley where there's some source of water, pretty sketchy water sources here, and then climb back up. But it's mostly, actually entirely, covered in leaves. So even though it's probably going to get close to 80 degrees today, the shade from these leaves makes it nice. And at the tops, you can have little breezes. The bugs aren't too bad. They're definitely bad at the lower parts by where the water is. Well, we're still heading east, and we'll be coming down off of this bluff and then going across the flats and then up over onto the next bluff, and we'll be continuing in that direction. It's been a nice day, very hot and sunny. We've been in the shade most of the day, but here's a look of what we've come, where we're into now. We're still basically been on this ridge line for the entire time, overlooking this vast expanse of the upper peninsula of Michigan. So we're gonna go a little bit farther, find a cool spot to have some lunch and deal with the midday hiker blues, the little bit of midday fatigue that always happens around 2 o'clock in the afternoon after a day of hiking, when you realize you still got 4 or 5 more hours left to do. Okay, check back in with you later. We're off the bluffs, going across flat that we're very fortunate that we're hiking it now as opposed to a couple weeks ago, because it's just dried out and there are lots of spots like what I'm walking over right now that would have been just swampy, boggy a little while ago. But we had our midday lunch, the tuna fish and wrap is kicking in, and now we're moving over this material here, which is not hard like going up a hill or downhill, but it's all these little ups and downs, which gives your legs a little workout. Well, here comes an obstacle by the looks of things. A little bit wetter than normal, but Renee seems to have done pretty well here. So I'm gonna have to be quiet. Let me see if I can get across this without tripping and falling while recording this. And then we'll see what's on the other side. It wasn't too bad. A little bit of moss, the bridge there. I've lost Renee. Oh, there she is. So, just checking in. Got 3 miles left to a decision, and we'll bring you up to speed when we get there. Well, this is where we've decided that we're going to set up our tent tonight. We're just going to set up around the corner. So let's take a look where we're going. We hiked today 19 miles. Pretty good. This is what we're looking from this way. So the sun will rise over these trees tomorrow. So where we found our spot, up on this bald, it's got a little bit of privacy. But this has been a pretty phenomenal day of hiking here in the UP. It's been pretty impressive. The bugs aren't too bad. Here is where we're going to be setting up our tent, and then we'll be getting ready for dinner and all that jazz. It's going to be a tricky tent setup tonight because our tent relies on pegs being stuck in the ground, and right here we're on top of rock. So we're going to be creative, I'm thinking, come up with some solutions. But we'll show you how we figure that out afterwards. Well, we set up our tent remarkably quick tonight. Our tent doesn't support itself with tent poles. We use our trekking poles, and we also have to have it anchored to the ground. So tonight was a particular challenge of setting it up because we were on top of rock. So what we did is we used boulders, and we put our tent pegs underneath them, and we use them as anchors to set up our tent to get this place, this location with the background. And we got all our kit in the tent now, our sleeping pads, our sleeping quilts, and we're just gonna, get ready for dinner. It's a lovely location. Just walk around the tent. Well, we're all packed up. Today we like the spot we were at, so we decided to have breakfast here, pack up our tent to have breakfast here, and then start our adventure of the day. Today is the top of the out and back. We go down towards Old Victoria. We sort of touch the sign, and then we turn back and we start heading towards here again. So we'll be going past this spot today. Renee's making some incredible morning coffee, which she likes to do. And we'll take a look at over here over the vistas of the morning. Last night when we were looking in this direction, we could see the hill, but we didn't notice the cliffs because it was too much sun. But here we go. Lovely east looking valley. Morning of day 2. Broke camp. Been hiking over ridgeline, past a couple streams, think we're going to be coming off of this ridge, and then we got a series of flats for the last big ridge, and then we will be into Old Victoria. This is a beautiful morning. This is very typical here. Lots of interesting light, ferns. The ground is, you know, keeps you occupied. You got to be watching where you're walking. There's lots of roots and rocks, little obstacles. I don't know if your camera ever picks this up, but how we find our way through the woods like this is that every once in a while there's a blue blaze swatch of paint on a tree, and you know, you sort of walk keeping your eyes peeled for that. I can see one coming up. I'll give a close up of it in a second. So if you're paying attention, there you go. Here's a blue blaze right up there. There's the blue blaze, and now we'll go back down the trail. Well, this is Lake Victoria. This is the sort of the best view of the lake. The only view, really, quite honestly. It sort of snuck up on us. I think the West Okanagan River is what fills this lake, and all those little streams, all the water collected here. So we're going to stop here for lunch. We're going to have a discussion, a snack, have a discussion about going down into Old Victoria or not, and then we'll see what we do from there. But it's been a really wonderful second day of hiking, midday break. And this is looking further east over to of the UP. Well, end of day 2. How far did we hike today?
17-ish miles.
17-ish miles. We are at the Lost Community Overlook of Norwich area, and we've decided to camp up behind us over here. And now what we're going to be doing here is taking care of our feet. We got a little bit of water, and we got these wonderful little towelettes that you get wet. I'm gonna get some soap out of the pot set here, and Renee's going to show us how to take care of our feet at the end of the day. Because you march, you walk on your feet, and if you don't take care of your feet, dirty feet, and just clean and get rid of fungus and all that stuff. So here's a little bit of soap, a little bit of water, just a little bit of soap, and then notice how she's just cleaning them up there, cleaning them off in between those toes. Oh yeah, how's that feel? Feels good. Yeah, taking care of our feet's important. You get blisters when they get sweaty and dirty down there, and if you get sore feet, you're just not having fun out on a hike. Well, there we go, foot hygiene 101, and I'm gonna turn off the camera and take care of my own feet. Well, let me take you up to our campsite for the night. Like I said, apparently there was an old village built here back in the 1860s, and it was one of the earliest copper mines up in this part of the world. This part of the world famous for mining iron ore and copper. Here's our tent and our tent site, and we got everything opened up to let the breeze flow through. I'm just coming up here to pick up the windscreen and get things all set away. But this is a lovely spot. We have good breeze coming over the hill. There's Renee down below, and we are going to enjoy lentils. And what else are we having, love? Lentils and beans? Lentils and rice and spinach. Very Renee centered meal. Well, you guys take care, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Morning of day 3. We're all packed up. Our campsite is now gone. There's no trace of us ever being here, other than maybe a few little squished down plants that will pop up as the day goes on. Today is a windier day. So that means, you know, you probably have a hard time hearing me on the camera, but it should be cooler. The wind will help keep the mosquitoes and the bugs away. And we have about 20 miles back to the car
But today we are only going to be hiking about 15 miles to our first campsite, more than likely. We'll see how that all turns out. Well, see you on the trail, and we'll see what happens. Well, this is what we're heading back to. Going up this way. Oh, the rocks right over there is what we'll be heading towards eventually. We have to go across. This is the flat that we'll be going across for a few miles. Then we'll come up along that ridge line over there, and then along the ridge line, then drop down, and we'll basically make our way back to those rocks, and then a little bit beyond that. There's Renee looking all. Is that the way we go, down that way?
It looks like it, yep.
Okay. Well, a little midday shower today, so we put our pack covers on. We just had a little break, and then it just seemed to light up with rain, and now we're just hiking down the trail. The sun started to come out, so everything's all wet and pretty. We managed to get through the flats, and now we're just heading down the trail towards some place where we'll stop tonight for our last night on the trail. Well, we've got an hour or so before our last campsite of this hike, which was our first campsite of this hike, because, you know, and out in the back is sort of like that. So we stopped here for a little break. This obviously was a campsite that's used. There's a bit of a ridge line over there. Trees are there, the wind's blowing. It was rainy a little bit this morning just to get us a little bit wet, but now the sun is out, the wind's breezy, the mosquitoes have been blown away by the wind. So it's otherwise a great day of hiking. Our packs are pretty heavy because this campsite that we're going to is a dry campsite. So we filled up with all our water bottles and our 4 liters each, or 4 liters total of water in our platypuses for the dry camp. So needless to say, our packs are heavier than we like because, you know, you're carrying water, but that's such is the nature of a hiking, you know, in a place like this, I guess. See you at the campsite. We got up at 6 this morning and we packed up, sort of heard some rumbling in the distance, sounded like thunder. It's very hot today, could be like 90% humidity. Anyways, so we packed up and decided to break camp. So we were on the go by 6:30. So this is actually a little bit early for us. It's now just 10 to 7. It's what time we're usually getting up. But we've already been walking for half hour. We're gonna look for a vista for our last morning breakfast of this hike of 2020. Overall, it's been pretty good. The challenge for this hike has been the heat and the humidity, which, you know, we've hiked a lot out west and it's never really hot. Maybe in the middle of the day, definitely not in the morning. And it's surprisingly not very humid. Here right now, just breathing in the air, you get a mouthful of moisture. Well, check in at least one more time before the end of the trip. I'll be quiet for a bit and let you enjoy some of the scenery as we're walking through. Ooh, all the way from Illinois. Guess it's not that far. So, hon, how's the hike?
Lovely.
Back to civilization. As you can tell, our car's here. There's another car here. That must have been the church group that we saw, where they dropped off one car and then they had the other car at the other end. So there we go, Old Victoria, 34 miles one way, came back. So that's 68 miles. It's really been a really good hike. And, you know, I guess we could ask for better weather, a little bit cooler, but overall, better than sitting at home. So, one less car go by. So that's it for Renee and Pierre. We're gonna get cleaned up and go down to a town just 7 miles south of here and find some water and relax there.